Every culture is very, very similar. Not everybody needs to be on a ketogenic diet, but we see very commonly among our Asian community, and especially among Chinese community, which I'm mostly familiar with, how many people you know have diabetes? So many, right? Probably over the years, our bodies were not built to eat so much sugar. And sugar comes in so many hidden ways. It comes in skim milk, it comes in ketchup. And people like to put ketchup on their eggs, but ketchup has sugar in it. We drink fruit juice, we eat fruit 3 times a day. Our ancestors never did this. We're eating honey and agave nectar and maple syrup, all natural sugars. But how often do we really eat those things? Not very often. And so we build up a lot of inflammation. And so it's the sugar that drives the insulin. And insulin is the inflammatory hormone that then stimulates our bodies to produce cholesterol, because cholesterol is actually a molecule in our body that is used to fix things and patch them up. So it's not the cholesterol from the egg yolk that's becoming the cholesterol in our blood. It's the sugar that's causing the irritation and the inflammation. And then the body responds by creating more cholesterol to patch up all the irritation in the artery walls. So, as I like to say, when we removed fat from our diets, any dairy farmer in Switzerland could have told you what was going to happen, right? People started getting fatter. Even though we exercised more and we ate less, we still got fatter. And it's because we just started eating more sugar and we started stimulating more insulin. And we became insulin resistant, because it's like, I like to talk about how insulin resistance is like loud noises for your hearing. If you listen to loud noises for a long time, after a while, you can't hear, right? So what do you have to do to hear more? To hear, you have to turn up the volume. So if your body is exposed to lots of insulin, after years of that, it's kind of like, I can't hear the insulin anymore. So your body's like, hey, we've got all this sugar that's so high. What do? Put out more insulin, because that's the way we know how to lower the blood sugar. So you put out more insulin, which creates more inflammation, and then your cholesterol keeps going up. And so the real key is to not stimulate insulin so much. And the way to not stimulate insulin is to remove or decrease the sugar and starch in your diet, because all the starchy food becomes glucose. To remove or decrease the lean protein in your diet, or to fast. Because if you fast for 12 hours, the insulin levels will then drop. When the insulin levels drop, now it's not there to block off your fat, and your fat becomes open and available to provide energy to you. And so that's why in the English word breakfast is to break the fast, right? You break the fast because you haven't eaten probably in about 12 hours. If you stopped eating at sundown, which is maybe about 6 or 7 o'clock, and then the next morning you don't eat until 8 o'clock, it's been probably 13 hours, right? And most of our ancestors worked on farms or outdoors. When they got up, the first thing they did was probably not to eat. They probably drank a little something, some water or some tea, and then they went out and they worked. So now they haven't eaten for 12 hours. They're doing some exercise by working. And so now where is their body getting all the energy? It's pulling it from their fat. And then when they went back to eat, after doing some work in the morning, they ate something that was fatty. In Europe, they were eating cheese or some fatty meat like salami or something. And in Asia, right, we'd have like some fish or a little bit of vegetables and broth. And then how do you make the broth? You make it from the bones. And when from the bones comes all the marrow and the cartilage, which is all fat. And then you cook your vegetables in that, and you didn't have a huge piece of meat. You had little pieces of fatty meat, little cubes of fat with little bits of meat, protein on it, because you don't need so much protein. And you would eat that, and our ancestors were strong, they lived long lives, and they worked hard. And if they died young, it was probably from an infection or an injury or something like that. But it wasn't from a chronic disease. It wasn't from diabetes, right? It was from, because it was usually only the rich people who had access to sugar who got into trouble.